Hello, hey, Mitchell here. And I have a couple cats. One of them is named Uga, and she is wandering around. We might get a visitation. So, anyway, good morning or afternoon, wherever you are. It's morning for me. I'm going to start out, of course, by talking a little bit about the breath because, well, that's what I do. I talk about the breath. I am a mindfulness and meditation teacher, coach, life coach, I guess, because I don't differentiate any of it. Polyvagal specialist, polyvagal therapist, and breathwork coach. So to me, I put it all together. It's a natural merging. I can't differentiate them one from the other at this point because they all affect the other. So while you're listening, I want you to be breathing in and out through the nose only, both in and out. Mouth is closed, tongue is at the roof of the mouth, and I want for you to exhale slightly longer than your inhale. If you can bring your exhale to twice as long as your inhale, even better. And your inhale isn't a deep, full inhale. It's just a very light inhale, but it's a deep inhale, one that comes all the way into the bottom of the diaphragm. So it's just a in, two, pause, out, 2, 3, 4, pause, in, 2, pause, out, 2, 3, 4, pause. That way we can get twice as long of an exhale as an inhale. You may feel a slight oxygen hunger. Go with it. It's okay. We have spent, anybody in the developed worlds has probably spent far more time than their bodies were designed to in sympathetic or fight or flight, or in just a slight agitation or stress mode, and not maybe one that you would even register mentally because you're so used to it. But what happens is that sympathetic stimulation changes your breathing habits, and you end up breathing more and more through the upper chest. You end up breathing more and more through the mouth. You start reducing your carbon dioxide retention. Your carbon dioxide retention reduces your ability to synthesize oxygen or move the oxygen from the bloodstream into the organs, the tissues, the muscles. And so you end up maybe with a real high oxygen level in your bloodstream, and that oxygen is therefore trapped. It doesn't move out. So you end up being more oxidized because you're carrying a lot of oxygen without being able to utilize it. So it becomes more like, what's oxidation? Rust. Okay? So we're going to oxygenate, and we're going to try to recalibrate your brain to accept more or retain more carbon dioxide so that you fully synthesize the oxygen that is that you are bringing in. That's my little talk there. My next little piece is, I mentioned it right at the get-go, that we are our culture naturally puts us in a state of constant, maybe mild stimulation. Just the YouTube, phone, news, 24/7 cycle keeps us stimulated, maybe more so than this body was designed to handle. the other stimulations, the colors, the signs, driving, moving in a vehicle, all these things cause a little bit more stimulation than this body was designed for. Millions of years in the Veld didn't prepare us for zipping around in automobiles, on freeways, going to malls, watching YouTube. The colors and stimulations that we have today keep the senses a little bit more on alert than they ever have been. So when we breathe in and out through the nose, it's a conscious signal to keep us in the core. So we bring our awareness. Our awareness is naturally brought into the core by this simple breathing practice. Now, when I go into different breath works, we will go deeper into core, deeper into meditation, all those things. But for now, this very, very basic breath will bring us back from sympathetic to parasympathetic, bringing us into the core, bringing us into this place of oxygenating the organs first. So our respiratory organs, our circulatory organs, our cleansing organs, our digestive organs, all get first dibs, right? We want to take care of our synthesis of air and food first, and then we have more energy and more accessible energy and more sustained energy than if our awareness is continually in the extremities, as in a sympathetic mode. So simply being in your breath, doing this nose only breath, longer exhale than inhale, diaphragm breaths, you keep your awareness deeper in your core. This also, when your awareness is in the core, and the awareness isn't a mental thing, this is a physiological thing. And you'll notice that there's a component that in the East we call it the watcher or the observer, the seer. And then there's the thinker, and that would be the seen or the observed or the watched. When we're more in the core, we're less in the thinker. We allow the core to be part of that awareness that we are. We are a awareness machine, really. And when we think that it only has to do with what we think, then we really do tend to narrow down awareness. We narrow down our ability to synthesize our world, because it's only what we bring in intellectually or mentally, whereas our body itself can interpret and read the environment in a much more, a much richer capacity. And I highly, highly recommend sitting with body awareness and then noticing how much more in sync you are with the wider environment when you're more in body awareness than in continual thinkingness or mental awareness. So that's mindfulness, right? So we've covered breath work, we've covered polyvagal, and we've covered mindfulness just by breathing in and out only through the nose. Okay. And this is a state where as you develop this, your entire system calms, because the body, when it is interpreting the environment for the whole of you, we have far better signals. The body contains 80% of the signals, whereas the mind only 20%. So we've got a 4-to-1 ratio here, where when we're only using mental capacity to interpret our environment, we're only bringing in those things that the mind thinks are important, whereas the body itself then is left feeling unsure about the rest of these signals because it's not given any credence. When it's not given any credence, then it starts sending emergency signals up to the brain. The brain, again, only has one answer for every 4 questions. So what does it do? Well, it takes those things that it thinks are important and tells the body to ignore the rest, or it has that one signal for everything, and then the body goes into sympathetic mode, which is stress. And it may just be a mild stress, but it's still just trying to be aware and active in case something happens, because it sees that the mind is, wanting to be the entire boss when there's lots of other folks that could be contributing. There's a whole team here, and we're only allowing one player the all access to the ball, so to speak. So there we have it. That's our physiological portion of today's message. The body awareness right now is critical, and I'm going to kind of talk about what's happening on the national level, whereas we can get very absorbed mentally on what's happening in politics, in just the geopolitical world, and it causes outrage and further imbalance. When the mind itself isn't able to calm, then the body it isn't either. Now, when we edit down what we are taking in through the mind, let's take in maybe 20% of what we're used to, so that we give the proper proportion to the mind. And let's let the body decipher the rest. And in doing so, what would I suggest? I would suggest getting into nature, walks, maybe just sitting quietly. I'm not suggesting that you meditate now 80% of the time, but I am suggesting that you find silence, mostly for the mind, and of course as a treat for the body. So when there's silence and the mind isn't bringing in, the body itself is being treated. And so find the silence and then come into the body. Just body awareness. And how do we do that? Well, when we're breathing in and out only through the nose, that stimulates diaphragm breathing, which when you're breathing through the mouth, it's oftentimes just upper chest breathing. So breathing in and out through the nose encourages a deeper breath. When you're doing that, when you're noticing when you're breathing through the nose and you've taken your mental break and you're giving yourself a body, your body time, feel what it feels like to breathe into the diaphragm. Allow yourself to come in with your awareness into the diaphragm. And you'll notice that maybe you will naturally close your eyes because that awareness goes very deep, and you find that there's an added dimension when you close your eyes. Highly, highly recommend just paying attention to this solar plexus area as you breathe in and out deeply. Now, not big breaths, as I mentioned before, just a 2 count, but it goes so deep that you get a much richer, fuller breath, even though there's much less air moving through. Fun fact, most people breathe at least twice as much as we need to. Sometimes as much as 3 times. And that's just the mouth breathing. You end up panting, you're bringing in more. And another thing here is pay attention to that exhale. Remember, we were exhaling twice as long as the inhale. When we exhale twice as long, it helps to bring awareness back into the organs, into the front, into the parasympathetic, as it actively turns off cortisol, turns off adrenals. It can even turn off endorphins, which we kind of want, because what is then triggered in its stead is the milder, more peaceful chemicals, the serotonins, those types of things, the melatonins. Now, we don't want to go to sleep, even though that is a great one to have for sleep, but it's the calming chemicals rather than the stimulating, exciting chemicals like an endorphin. That's why a lot of times what we get addicted to watching news is we get that endorphin hit, which we interpret as a pleasure, but in fact it's a stimulation, and it does shoot a lot of it does incorporate a lot of adrenaline and the resulting lactic acid and cortisol and all those things. So paying attention to the breath, we also notice that the awareness, which is usually right here, if this is the thinking mind and awareness is here, then we begin to think that we begin to believe that we are the mind. But once we start turning our focus to the body, using focus to come to the body, we notice that awareness follows focus, and awareness is different than thinking. And so we begin to really discover who we are, which may be more in this awareness piece that can move around than the thinking, because the thinking and awareness piece has been joined so intimately for so long that we have very little distinguishment between the two. And let's practice experiencing awareness, the awareness of who we are, independent of the thinking mind. Okay? So we're going to bring awareness into the solar plexus region. We're going to feel the diaphragm. And a lot of folks have very limited movement in diaphragm these days because we tend to be predominantly chest breathers. So feel that diaphragm moving, and really practice the exhales. Remember, I was doing 4 times. We were doing a 4 count on the exhale versus a 2 count on the inhale. So we bring that diaphragm up into the rib cage and feel that diaphragm really move. So many folks, as a result of being in constant sympathetic, have a much tighter diaphragm than is necessary, so we're not going to get a lot of movement at first. And so just like your tight hamstrings, we're going to breathe more from the diaphragm, and we're going to feel that exhale and bring that diaphragm up into the rib cage, stretch it out a little bit. We're also going to strengthen it. It ties the entire rib cage and the spine together, so it's a transverse muscle versus all these muscles that kind of wrap around the body. This one goes right across through the middle of the body, and so it can really help you with your core strengthening, but it also helps with the entire digestive and respiratory function. It helps digestion because it really can massage those muscles. It helps the respiratory and the circulatory because it puts pressure on the heart and then releases pressure on the heart. All of these things the body loves, the body is built for. And with that diaphragm having been so rigid, that pressure on the heart, the massaging of the organs has gone down with popular culture, and more thinkingness and less beingness. So we're going to start tonifying our internals, our core, and not just our core muscles, but our core organs, right? Heart, lungs, liver, spleen, small intestine, large intestine, bladder, all these pieces that, kidney, that oftentimes we have issues with as we age in today's culture. So we're bringing more blood flow into the organs as we breathe deeper, as we are more aware of our breath, as we become more in sympathetic continuously, in that rest and digest mode. Rest, and I like to add that it is also safety mode. It's also body awareness mode. So bring that in. So you've heard your meditation teacher just follow the breath, but we didn't know why. What does it do? Well, it turns on this whole awareness system that comes with bringing attention to the organs. So practice bringing your focus here, and your entire body will wake up. In fact, you'll learn to be the observer. You'll learn to be the one who observes rather than being the observe, which is that one that's always looking out, watching what's happening with those others. We're not watching what's happening right here. Let's pay more attention to this, okay? I think that's probably enough for today. This is a very natural meditation, and I would highly, highly encourage you to use it as a meditation, but not just to sit down and, drill down, even though I would recommend doing that at least once a day, closed eyes, and watching this, bringing awareness, bringing focus down here, but also practice bringing focus into the solar plexus while in everyday functions. If you're in a meeting, you think that your brain is telling you that I need to be thinking and be really focused. Bring your awareness, your focus into here, and see if that opens up. things that are happening in that meeting that maybe your brain isn't picking up. Remember, you've got 80% of your understanding of your environmental awareness coming from the body, only 20% from the mental capacities. Okay, bring it in while doing something completely neutral. And especially bring it in when you're in nature. So even if you're just outside walking the dog, bring awareness to the solar plexus. Keep your focus there. And notice if you become aware of the nature that's around you in a fuller way. And, not in a thinking way, in a way of just noticing, being the watcher, coming from the solar plexus, keeping your focus drawn into the body. So the mental part continues. It can't help it. But when we bring focus into the core of our system, we invite the entire system to be part of our interaction with life, rather than just simply interpreting and naming and then putting a judgment on it and moving on to the next thing. We deepen awareness of all of what we are. So bring it in when you're in nature, and bring it in when you're in public. I love bringing the awareness in just when I'm, like, for example, in the grocery store. And all of a sudden, I notice a much deeper connection with everything that's there, whether it's the fruits and vegetables in the produce section, or the different people walking around, the shopping carts, the movements, the colors. They all come to life in a much richer, more fulfilling way. So many different experiences that we have discounted by keeping all of our attention on the mental processing. So bring it in down here and bring life in a whole body type of way. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.